Sorry, any of the public?
Hi, my name is Nicole Peltier, and I'm here to address an issue that I heard on the radio in the past week having to do with giving yourselves a raise. Unfortunately, it's not listed on the agenda that I received tonight, but I would like to speak to it anyway. North Bay has been my home since 2007, and so I have a vested interest in speaking to issues like these. So when you're voting to give yourself a raise, you also have to take into account what is the definition of a conflict of interest, especially when I think the motion put forward is that you want to see this enacted now and not for a later term. So I did a little digging, did a little research. This is the best conflict of interest definition I can give you. It's a conflict between the private interests and the official responsibilities of a person in a position of trust. We saw with the Baylor University study that public trust is definitely an issue in this city. It is a little higher than the national average, but no less it is an issue. So when we're talking about conflict of interest, even the perception is a conflict of interest. If the public feels that there is a conflict of interest, you don't get to say when you're at a conflict of interest. It's the perception, it's the optics that matter in situations like these. So I think it was Gord Young who wrote an article in the Nugget on Thursday. The title was, if you could give yourself a raise, would you? And I have it right here. You know, if you could, would you give yourself a raise? He really hits it home on all the points. I'm absolutely astounded. If you haven't already read it, you should, because I believe the Nugget readership is 10,000 plus, so most people probably have. I was speaking with my political science colleagues tonight in class, and we were speaking about this very issue. So it's something that involves the youth of the community as well. And as noted by my political science colleagues, we've heard councillors stated that attractive benefits attract qualified individuals. And we found it really, really funny because it presupposes that current council is not qualified. The classroom broke out in laughter, and perhaps maybe you don't think it's so funny, but I kind of do. So in summation, voting yourself a raise is in a conflict of interest because you seek to benefit in the same term that you agreed to in not running on an election promise of giving yourself a raise. I didn't hear that from anybody. So instead, as Mayne and Rebroche have suggested in Gord Young's article, that perhaps you have this raise take effect next term. I'm not saying that you don't deserve a raise. I'm saying that the optics of this and the perception is, in fact, I'm telling you in my professional opinion, a conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Peltier, for your presentation. I do have a number of, I see one individual that has a question. Deputy Mayor Forget.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Nicole, for your respectful presentation. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to be voting tonight on it. I did do some homework myself too, and councils all over Ontario and Canada give themselves raises all the time. Some councils do it every year. I was wondering too if it was a conflict of interest, and that's why I looked into it, but apparently it's not. So I just wanted to clarify that with you.
Okay, can I respond to you? Oh, yeah. As of January 1st, 2016, municipalities will be under the purview of the Ombudsman. So I would actually rather have that forwarded to the Ombudsman than to rely on your personal thoughts.
Good enough.
Any further comments? Mrs. Peltier, thank you very much for coming down tonight and for your presentation.
Thank you. I'm just going to pour myself water and sit in the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other members of the gallery who'd like to make a presentation this evening? Seeing none? No, well, you can only present on one topic per council. No, but you're only allowed to present once. Mrs. McIsaac?
Moved by Councillor Saran, seconded by Councillor Marousas, that minutes for the public meetings held on Wednesday, November 25th, 2015, Thursday, November 26th, 2015, Monday, November 30th, 2015, Tuesday, December 1st, 2015, Wednesday, December 2nd, 2015, Monday, December 7th, 2015, and Tuesday, December 8th, 2015 be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried.
Moved by Councillor Forget, seconded by Councillor Sjogren, that General Government Committee Report number 2015-24 relating to user fees, city departments, and North Bay Fire and Emergency Services be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? Councillor Russo? Oh, no, sorry. Oh, okay. All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried.
Moved by Councillor Forget, seconded by Councillor Sjogren, that General Government Committee Report number 2015-25 relating to council remuneration be adopted as presented. There's been an amendment to the committee report. Moved by Councillor Marousas, seconded by Councillor Vinecourt, that General Government Committee Report number 2015-25 re-council remuneration be amended by adding the following. 5, that the following apply to remuneration for City of North Bay appointees to agency boards and commissions, that the mayor and councillors appointed to agency boards and commissions where other municipal representatives or provincial appointees receive a stipend for attending meetings be directed to accept the remuneration and direct that it be payable to the City of North Bay on their behalf.
Councillor Marousas?
Okay. Yes, just for some clarification in the wording, Your Worship, it's worded very carefully that in fact that the mayor and the councillors who do attend these boards and commissions where other representatives from municipalities or the province receive a stipend, accept it because it's necessary for them to accept it, and that they direct that that stipend be made payable to the City of North Bay. It's very clear to me, Your Worship, that over the last 13 years, because it would, in January, it would be 13 years when the mayor and council, during their term, gave themselves a raise, but then included in that wage adjustment and remuneration in that term was that members of council were not to accept these stipends. And if you take a look at organizations, I'll use the one that I'm most familiar with, which is the District of Social Services Board, where I did a calculation with an official who actually looks after remuneration. The calculation is that the City of North Bay, depending on the number of meetings, but leaves between $35,000 and $40,000 on the table. 70% of that money is from the province. If you do the math, there are other organizations that I'm not as familiar with, but the health unit is also subsidized. I understand my colleagues tell me their subsidy is in the area of 75%. So there are other organizations which receive provincial subsidy for these stipends. And I can tell you that since, in those last 13 years, the taxpayers of this city have been out hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not the City of North Bay and the mayor, but the taxpayers from provincial money. And you know, Your Worship, we're always crying about how the province cuts us back and and this, that, and the other thing. So now that we are adjusting our remuneration in our year, and quite frankly, as I've explained to a couple of citizens, nobody else can adjust our remuneration. I've been here since the fall of '82, and there's been numerous times when remuneration has been adjusted, and it has to be adjusted by the council. There's nobody else that can do it, Your Worship. We have to do it. It's interesting. I mean, it makes great news to write articles about would you like to give yourself a raise, but you know, ignorance of the laws of the province of Ontario and how municipalities work, you know, is really no excuse for that kind of journalism. But anyway, Your Worship, the reason that I put this amendment forward was so that if it passes, along with remuneration, the taxpayers of this city will start benefiting from the provincial money that is out there, and that the emphasis or the effect on our taxpayers is drastically reduced, Your Worship, by implementing this. The other thing about it is there had been some discussion at one time, well, maybe we should just let people take their stipends and forget the raise. The problem that this raises, Your Worship, is that there's an uneven distribution from different boards and commissions, and I prefer to have people sit on boards and commissions that they're really interested in, not just because of the money. So I think this is a better way to pool this money and to use it as a revenue item against that. Some of my colleagues were concerned about receiving a T4 from these organizations. I'm sure that our payroll department and our people who are in accounting can figure out a way to put out a proper T4 for councils for monies that were actually received, because you can't pay money on something that you haven't received. I think with the wording that this is workable, Your Worship, and I encourage my colleagues to support this because it's in the best interests of the community and the taxpayers to retrieve some of this money. And quite frankly, I'm really sorry about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've actually lost over the last 13 years because of that.
Great. Councillor Anthony, I saw your hand up.
Sure, I don't mind deferring to mover or seconder if they would prefer to go first. If not, I'll go.
I saw your hand. So.
Okay, fair enough. So in my view, this really began in earnest, although there had been some talk different times, probably about, I guess it was 2.5 months ago, and through Your Worship to Councillor Bain, you, I think, got the ball rolling by putting forward the motion to reduce the size of council. And I remember calling you that evening, and I told you that I would 100% support you on reducing the size of council, and I did. We were not successful. It was just you and I. But I told you I would 100% support you, and I did. At that same time, that very same evening, I told you I would not be able to support a pay increase, so I believe you know where I stand. And so I won't be able to support this.
Any further comments? Councillor King?
Thank you, Your Worship, and this has been quite a process we've gone through, and it's an interesting resolution, Councillor Marousas, or amendment you put forward. I can tell you I've been contacted by a large number of people with respect to the proposed increase, and certainly I was in the beginning riding the fence on the issue, and it didn't really matter to me one way or the other whether or not we did actually support, or I supported, an increase. I think the biggest issue revolved around the fact that there was a lack of attendance actually at DSAB meetings, and I felt that the regional appointees were actually controlling the agenda at that particular point. So that was my main concern with respect to the whole process. As far as wage increases are concerned, everyone that contacted me said without doubt that this council is underpaid. There's no question that's the issue. I think over the years, actually, and it goes back to a number of councils over the years, and I did take the time actually to check with staff based on the history of salary increases for mayors and councils back to 2009, and this actually would include 2009 through to 2015. The overall increase during that period of time was 11.62%, and the average increase was 1.66%. And I can remember distinctly a question that Councillor Mayne asked staff, which actually was of great interest, was the question with respect to setting the agenda for the up-and-coming negotiations with respect to both staff payment and also union requirements, both fire, police, and QP requirements. And it's interesting to note, actually, in further examining increases in salaries and costs to taxpayers. In 2011, the city of North Bay had a full-time equivalent number of employees of 764. And the average compensation in 2009 was $65,575. It's interesting, when we get to the year 2015, our full-time equivalent numbers now are 695, and the average compensation to city employees is $87,769. And that overall compensation per employee increase represents a 33% increase over a 5-year period. Getting back to the salary increases of council, sat at 11.62%. So obviously, by setting an example as a council over the years, that certainly didn't cause the net effect with respect to salary increases. But having said that, it's obvious, because of the situation we find ourselves in, I find it absolutely imperative that we not at this particular time, and I say not, support an increase to council. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mayne.
Thank you, Worship. I firstly have a question through you to Councillor Marousas, if I may. When this proposal first started out, there was going to be a balance of reducing from 10 to 8 councillors, and with the residual revenue, there would be an opportunity to increase, essentially revenue neutral, in terms of we save a bit, we spend a bit more in council, but there wouldn't be a major impact on the overall budget to the city. The proposal that we are looking at right now has grown to about an $80,000 increase per year on the city budget. If you add up all the increases and the 8% in benefits in lieu per person, it's about an $80,000 per year increase from the original revenue neutral proposal, which was the one motion combining both, or consideration of one motion. So I do like the idea of returning whatever the differential is in fees from the ABCs back to councillors coming back to the city, but any idea what that amount would be? How much, and essentially, how much will it offset the current $80,000 that's being considered?
So, Councillor Marousas, I don't know if you'd like to reply to that.
Well, I don't have specifics, because I only investigated the DSAB, and the estimate there is between, in the area of 35 to 40,000 if we have full attendance, and then you have to do the percentage because it's 70% financed, and then you'd have to do them through. I mean, as a quick guess, are we going to get every nickel back? I don't think so. But is it going to be more than half? Absolutely. And that's why I thought it was important to put this amendment in.
And I thank you, Councillor Marousas. I appreciate the amendment. I will support the amendment. Your Worship, I do have an amendment for consideration as well at the appropriate time, but I believe we'll vote on this amendment first.
Well, if you're going to make an amendment, I would suggest you make the amendment now, but
Okay.
because if we vote on this and it passes, you won't have an opportunity to make that amendment.
Good point. Proposed, subject to finding a seconder, that any approved increase to council remuneration be made effective 1st of January 2019.
Okay, I see a seconder, Councillor Raybosch, so that's what's on the table. Councillor Saran?
I've just asked questions regarding the amendment.
You can speak to the amendment.
Well, I just wanted
The second,
clarification.
I can answer, maybe I can answer the
Thank
question
you.
for you.
If you vote to accept the amendment that if anything goes forward to go for the next council, if you agree to that, because we've done this before where you agree to one and then it accepts everything,
Correct.
would that be the place here? Because as you're aware, I've been against the raise increase, but if we approve this amendment, does that automatically make the pay increase go through?
Yes, for January 1st, 2019.
That
So when you vote for this amendment,
you're
that's
going
on
for
the,
a pay raise, I won't be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
okay. Is there any further comments on the amendment that's on the floor? Okay, Councillor Maristas?
I think we should be having recorded votes, Your Worship.
Okay. Ms. Conrad, a recorded vote has been requested. Right, and then we could speak to the second, if that's defeated, then we speak to this, we can still speak to the second, or the original amendment. Correct.
So you'll be voting on the secondary amendment, and that's to amend the committee report's effectiveness date to January 1st, 2019. So Councillor Maristas,
No.
Councillor Vaillancourt,
No.
Councillor Sjogren,
No.
Councillor Saran,
No.
Councillor Forget,
No.
Councillor Graybosch,
Yes.
Councillor Bain,
No.
Councillor Mayne,
Yes.
Councillor King,
No.
Councillor Anthony,
Yes.
Mayor McDonald.
No.
The secondary amendment is lost, so we'll
Okay.
go back to the primary amendment.
Okay, is there any further comments on the primary amendment? Councillor Saran?
Does the recorded vote still stay in place? Because if not, I'd like to have a recorded vote.
You can request.
I would like a recorded vote, please.
Okay. Mrs. Conrad, a recorded vote has been requested.
There will be a recorded vote upon the request of Councillor Saran, and this is on primary amendment amending the committee report. Councillor Saran,
No.
Councillor Graybosch,
Yes.
Councillor Mayne, Councillor Bain,
Yes.
Councillor King,
No.
Councillor Vaillancourt,
Yes.
Councillor Anthony,
No.
Councillor Forget,
Yes.
Councillor Sjogren,
Yes.
Councillor Maristas,
Yes.
Mayor McDonald.
Yes.
The motion is carried as amended.
And so there you have a violation of public trust.
Seconded by Councillor Vaillancourt that the reason